Janas' Classical Corner.
Well, sometimes while we do what we do, things conspire to kind of, work in the right direction. So I was going to do work with a cellist this week, and he called me and he said he really couldn't. He's got a new baby, so he and his wife have a new baby. So there's a lot going on. So he said it just really wasn't going to work out this week. I said okay, and at that very day was the day that Carol Channing died, and I just thought, I think there's something more important to do at Classical Corner this week. So I called up Richard Skipper and I said, I think you should, let us in a little bit more on Carol and just, honor her. And there's no one I can think of more appropriate to honor Carol Channing than this fabulous gentleman right here. So please welcome to the stage, Richard Skipper.
It's nice looking back on the past, when you've a past full of memories that last, sweet souvenirs of a life that was fast and full of fun. But now it's gone, though we must part when I sing the last song. It won't be for long, you've got your memories, sweet, soothing memories. Carol Channing sang that song in Lorelei in 1974. If you can bring up the house lights just a moment, I'd like to see the faces, especially the faces of those who are on the stage tonight. Because every one of you are wonderful and you're special just being who you are. Now, it reminds me, leave the house lights up, it reminds me of Carol Channing, a story that she told me that when she first went to Las Vegas. In those days, Las Vegas was 24/7, and there were shows every hour on the hour. And the biggest star at the time, this is 1949, the biggest star on the strip was Jimmy Durante. And he did a show at 4 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine this? And he was sold out every single time. And no one wanted to follow him. And Carol Channing said, I'll do it. I'll do it. Because all I have to do is just step into the love. And that's what I feel tonight. I feel like I'm stepping into the love. There are a few snapshots that I thought I would share with you. This is Carol and me together. It's interesting. This is all Carol pulling her strings up there. It's interesting that tonight is all about why you do what you do. This is why I do what I do. And I've asked Tanya to let me know when I've gone on too long. So when she starts to do this, she's not being rude. She's just helping us move things along. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Carol Channing started in show business. Carol Channing and I had something in common. We both like to do impressions. Now, Carol Channing did impressions of all the other students in school and the teachers and everyone that she knew. And I was doing impressions in high school on the front steps of Conway High School in Conway, South Carolina, of Carol Channing. It's true. It's true. And, Carol, when she left San Francisco, where she grew up, she was a Bennington girl. She went to Bennington College in Vermont. And when you were in Vermont, in Bennington College, you had to come to New York and get a job in whatever it was that you were majoring in. And Carol was majoring in theater, so she came to New York. She auditioned for Mark Blitzstein, and she got her first show, No for an Answer. She never went back to Bennington College in Vermont. But she couldn't get work here in New York. She had a job working at Macy's. Believe it or not, they had a bakery in those days. And she was fired for eating all of the blueberries out of the muffins. So she goes back to San Francisco, and she can't get work there. She goes to Los Angeles, and picture this, this is around 1946. In those days, the Rodgers and Hammerstein offices, because they had so many shows on the road, they had casting offices everywhere. So Gower Champion was casting a new show called Linden Ear, and he was looking for unknown talent. So he sent his wife, Marge Champion, and Marge Champion went to the Rodgers and Hammerstein office, and they said, well, there's a mousy little creature in the corner. We don't know what she does. Perhaps you can go and see if she would be interested. So Marge Champion goes over, and she says, we're casting this new show. Would you be interested in auditioning? And she said, why, yes, of course I would. So Marge Champion and Carol Channing are off on their way to the auditions. And Marge said, what exactly do you do anyway? And she said, well, I do impressions. She said, impressions of who? She said, Uta Hagen. Marge said, Uta Hagen? She said, yes, I do impressions of Uta Hagen. So she goes in, she meets Gower, and the first thing she says is, do you mind if I take off my shoes? And Gower said, absolutely, take off your shoes. And he said, I don't care what this woman does, I have to cast her. I'm going to show you a few more pictures. This is Carol and me together. Yes. Performing at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. And the night that this picture was taken, it was Carol's first appearance. Some of you may remember when she was going through that horrible divorce, but it was her first appearance, and we appeared together. And after the show, just as this picture was being taken, Carol and I were walking through, and this African-American guy come in. I mentioned that he's African-American because he was wearing a blonde wig, big lashes, a blazer, and Carol turned to me and she said, Richard, take a look at him. He's trying to do us. This is Carol and me together, and this picture was taken in her home. I stayed in her home in San Francisco when she got her star on the Palm Springs Walk of Fame. Now, this picture, why I do what I do, this is the first night that I performed for Carol Channing. And I found out that the New York Gay Men's Chorus was doing a tribute to Jerry Herman. So I campaigned to get into the show. I wrote letters, I made phone calls. We didn't have email in those days, but I tried and tried and tried. And everything landed on deaf ears. And then I got a phone call from a friend of mine, Lee LaForge, and Lee said, Richard, are you going to the concert Sunday night? And I said, I don't think so. I felt disappointed that I was not a part of it. And he said, well, I'm going to play the after party. Why don't you show up as Carol? She's going to be there. And why don't you come in and do, Danny, my husband will tell you this is all true. But I came in and I didn't know whether I should do it or not. I had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. And this battle was going on. And then I thought, if I don't do this, this opportunity will probably never present itself again. So I got dressed at my home in Rockland County, fully made up, come into the city, I walk into the room, and they walk me over to Carol's table. She was sitting at the back, and she looked up, and her first words to me were, where did you learn to do this? And I said, Bennington College. You do know where that is, Carol? It's the lower left-hand corner part of the map, the part of the state that's always purple. And she said, well, how long have you been impersonating me? And I said, well, who's to say you're not impersonating me? That was it. And I sat, she's asking me all these questions. She says, well, where are you from? And I said, well, I was born in San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, but I grew up in San Francisco. I'm doing her material. And she's asking me all these questions, hoping that I'm going to answer questions about Richard Skipper. But I never was Richard Skipper that night because I was Carol. And we sat there and all these people are waiting to see Carol. And I said, before you go, Carol, I would like to do a song for you. And she said, you would like to do a song for me? And I said, well, actually, I'd like to do my whole show for you. Now, it just so happens that when, at this time, I was in preparations for my very first cabaret show as Carol Channing, and Roy Sander, you gave me a great review. Do you remember that? You changed the trajectory of my whole life. So anyway, I was getting ready to do the show here, and I said, I would love to do the whole show for you. And she said, you just tell me when and where. And I said, upstairs in 10 minutes. And Carol stands up and she says to the entire room, I never thought I would say these words, but in 10 minutes we're going upstairs to see Carol Channing. Okay, we're at 5 minutes. So, anyway, I did my whole show for her. And there's more to tell. And I'm going to be telling it all in a show this summer, and I hope that you'll all be there. The whole show is not going to tell. It's been 8 years since I performed as Carol. And the greatest gift that came out of my doing that all those years was the friendship that I had with Carol. The world lost an icon and a legend this week, but I lost a very good friend. And she has been a big supporter of mine. She was in the audience more times than not, and I'm very, very blessed. Hello Dolly actually opened 55 years ago this week. She died on the 55th anniversary of the one and only preview that she did on Broadway. If anything, she had timing to the very end. And the end of Act 1 ends with Dolly speaking to her dear departed husband. And it's been a long time since I've done this, but please indulge me, I'll do it for you tonight. Ephraim, let me go. It's been long enough, Ephraim. Every evening for all these years, I've put out the cat, I've locked the door, and I've made myself a little rum toddy. And each evening, before going to bed, I said a little prayer, thanking God that no one else's life was mixed up with mine. And then one night, Ephraim, an oak leaf fell out of my Bible. I placed it there when you asked me to marry you, Ephraim. Oh, it was a perfectly good oak leaf, but it was without color, and it was without life. And I suddenly realized that I too was like that oak leaf. You see, Ephraim, for all these years, I have not shed one tear, nor have I been filled with the wonderful hope that something or other would turn out well. But now, Ephraim, I have decided to rejoin the human race. I am going to marry Mr. Horace Van de Gelder. And Ephraim, I want you to give me away. Before the parade passes by, I'm gonna go and taste Saturday's high life. Before the parade passes by, I'm gonna get some life back into my life. I'm ready to move out in front. I've had enough of just passing by life with the rest of them, with the best of them. I can hold my head up high, for I'm gonna go again, I'm gonna drive again. I can feel my heart coming alive again. Before the hold on a second. I need a drink of water. I'm gonna get this right for Carol. Ready? Passers by.
That is Richard Skipper and Mark Janas. Thank you, Barry. Delightful. Delightful.